one that I learned in Norway. It's called the Reinskytteren, the reindeer hunter. It's a Holley.
Okay, so this is Rinita, Dalan, and Gus Holley. So and this is their new fiddle. And so tell us all about the design choices and what everything means.
There's a few sources for the design ideas. One is the fiddles from the 18th century from Hardanger, like Isak Botnen in particular has a fiddle that has this fingerboard. So we wanted to go for a kind of I can explain why in a second, why we wanted to go for a more old school fiddle look, a more 18th century look rather than a 19th century look. So the fingerboard and tailpiece come from that, and so does, those fiddles tend to have not very much on the top and the front and the back, but a lot more on the ribs, including these kind of like geometric net things on the corners, which are basically... they think that these, on the early fiddles, these are a kind of like a hex or what's the word? They're a thing to keep away bad spirits.
So it traps them on the way. So the corners and the points of entry, you want to catch them.
Yeah, corners as points of entry.
Get in there.
Because the idea is that the nightmare, the sleep paralysis thing, that these bad spirits that come at night, they can't count past 4 or 8 or something in the Norwegian folk belief. So if you have all these things with all these little squares, then they get stuck counting and they have to keep starting over and over again. They can't get in.
And then just to put in a point of reality, we also figured if we put those things on the corner, if our designs got shorter or longer on the segments, we could stretch it out and it would look pretty good no matter how that ended up. So those were done.
So those come from that fiddle too. And I like that too because one of my favorite tunes that I learned when I was living in Norway learning fiddle tunes was it's called Faen I veggimette, which is the devil in the place where the walls meet. So this is exactly the kind of thing that's meant to, where the light doesn't go. There's the corner, and then the light is round, so there's a dark space. So that's why you need these things in the corners. So those things come from those 17th century fiddles from the West Coast, and then of course the whole form is based on the Dalan form from Telemark from the 20th century that came here, and then goes from Bud to us. So there's definitely elements of that Telemark Dalan design in there too. And then the specific motifs in the rosing, we wanted to use designs from weavings from Vest-Agder, which is where our one branch of our family comes from. That's where the Dalan farm is in Vest-Agder, and we have a really, 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 really nice weaving from there.
That's hanging on our
big,
wall.
Big weaving on our wall, and that's where that central design comes from. It's kind of an amalgamation of that weaving and another family weaving that we don't have anymore, but there's pictures
My
of it.
great-grandmother's sister made it, and they had the sheep and,
Dyed
sheared
the
the
wool.
wool and dyed the wool and wove the wool. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these designs on the front and back there come from that, and then some of the elements on the sides are. We wanted it all to be geometric designs, weaving designs. So that's why we wanted to do. That's why we liked the 18th century fiddle like fingerboards more, because they're geometric rather than more like floral and rosing. Yeah. So we wanted to go all geometric. And this thing
Yeah.
is we were doing research on, they call them bumerker, the like a
Use mark or a home mark or
like they used to use these before most people could write in Norway. So you would, like, if you made something or owned something on your farm, or even if there was some kind of agreement and you had to like sign something, you would just put this little mark,
like
this
your
little geometric
animals
mark.
or your machinery or your
Tools
milk
or
bucket thing
Yeah.
or anything. That
Branding a
belonged to
cow,
the
kind
farm.
of.
yeah,
Yeah.
including that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they'd have these little marks, and they don't seem to have. We read as much as we could about them, and they don't seem to have a really. They don't have like a specific meaning. Like this one means this, or this one. It's just
I think
everybody
maybe
has one.
some came from runic characters.
Yeah,
and
some of them were very root, but they're after people could read runes, they were still using these kind of rune-like
So
symbols.
we made up our own.
So we made up our own. We went and got as many as we could from the area right around that Dalan farm, and kind of got the general style, and then made one that was in that style but unique to us.
So for us, this is two people, two peaks, and they're joined by this triangle, which is a D on the side. And so my last name Dalan and Gus's middle name Dalan. And then the Red River Valley and the Odnadal Valley.
Which is
So you
where
can
the
see
name
that
comes.
river coming
Yeah,
up
valley.
from the D.
Yeah.
And also we put these tree of life or seed growing symbols here. And so it goes up through that and grows up into this tree-like
Tree, which
thing,
is the
which is
troll's
the
spine.
troll out of the wood.
So we wanted it to be that kind of growing out, and I thought that was also meaningful because this is the most special family heirloom we have, that design. So I wanted it to be like it was growing out of, we're making something new growing out of that. So
Beautiful.
And it
that's
seemed
the
like a
design.
family heirloom since we did it together.
Yeah.
So we took old family things and
Made something
you can
new.
talk about the troll.
Oh, so now we get the troll. The troll. We wanted to do something that wasn't just the traditional head, because also those early 18th century fiddles, they tend to have different like human faces or different things than the standard head now. And we liked trolls because, there's nothing more iconic symbol of I think Norwegian Americans anyway.
And Gus
trolls.
has always been drawing these crazy faces with big long noses
Growing up, I
and
always
stuff.
did that. So
and I
it's
had
also
a
nice.
great uncle that also did that sort of crazy art, and so we thought.
And that was, and then I grew up with the Asbjørnsen and Moe stories and the troll stories like that,
Yeah.
and so we were looking back at those and looking at the Skyttelsen troll paintings and things, and there are the one-eyed ones, and we kind of like that idea because it's a little bit more fun than than some of the troll. It's a little more on the fun side, more on the happy side. The one-eyed look, and also the most famous fiddle from Vest-Agder. The story goes that the guy who gave the wood to build the fiddle. It's called the Svarte Fiddle, the black fiddle. The guy who gave the wood to build the fiddle had one eye. So we also thought that was nice.
And there was a story in the Dictebook about a troll man.
Yeah. So then there's also troll
But don't tell that because that's a bad story.
Anyway, there was supposedly a troll man that lived on one of the farms. in
No,
our
he didn't
family.
live. He came.
Oh, he
and
didn't live
bathed in the
anywhere. He
lake
came
there.
by and bathed on the lake. Yeah. So there's troll stories there, and also the fiddling in Vest-Agder there's troll elements there too. You'll find stev, like all the song lyrics that have talk about fiddlers trolling people with their bow, like enchanting people, getting them to dance. So, and then if you look at the like the kind of traditional progression of a dance evening with a fiddle in Vest-Agder, the fiddle changes tuning several times throughout the evening from the start to the end, and where it ends up at the end of the night is in troll tuning, what they call troll tuning, which would be the high pitch tuning. So in like the late night when everybody's been dancing forever and everything has changed and everyone's all excited, then you end up in the troll tuning. And so when we were building the fiddle, we tried to do what little we could imagine to make it sound better in the higher range and in higher tuning, because troll tuning is in the higher tuning. So we figured if we have a troll on the top, then we should be able to play it in troll tuning.
And you also said our troll would be not Scandinavian, but Scandahuvian, more the Norwegian American.
Because he's smiling,
Yeah.
and it's more Oli and Lena than
It's
it is
not really the
Osmonds
scary.
and Mo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many hours did you spend?
I didn't record them,
But-
but Bud
Years.
says 200, and then I just doubled that,
Yeah.
400, and I think even
I'm
beyond
sure,
that, because I started from zero.
Wow.
I mean, both of us, neither of
Well,
us
yeah.
had done any of this, so it was a big learning curve. And then we sort of diverged and went off with certain things
Yeah.
to figure out how to do it differently, or how it would work. Like, we did this with a friend in Illinois at a fab lab and did laser cut
Wow.
Yeah, the
for
faces on the peg.
faces of the pegs. And
Oh, and tell us, what are these made of?
Oh, yeah. So the long triangles are what is that called?
Chine-
What's that material?
melamine.
Melamine chopsticks. Chopsticks. Yeah. So that was another thing that was a nice little touch, because I have, I have been to China a lot, and
His research is in China.
and also because we have part of our Norwegian family lived in China for 5 decades, from
Yeah.
1890s to 1940s.
And we
So
have Norwegian Chinese descendants, so.
We don't have descendants. They
No,
had.
they, yeah, but in our family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
And
another little
what's the name of that instrument that you play in China?
Pipa, P-I-P-A. Yeah. Yeah. So, and some of them were living in Shanghai, and that's where the music that I have learned in China is from Shanghai. So that's another connection. So it's a little detailed.
Yeah, we wrote on there, mentor or apprenticed under Bud Larsen.
Larsen, so it has 3
because,
names in there.
he was such a huge part of
Yeah, every step.
teaching us everything, and holding our hand, and when we started freaking out, saying, "Don't worry,"
Yeah.